Members get it first. Join for 99 cents.
Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. I hope you guys had a great holiday weekend, or having a great holiday weekend, depending when you hear this. Guys, everybody's blaming PlayStation for what's going on, them discontinuing physical media. I mean, there's several things. But one of the first things that I have to say is that it's not their fault, it's our fault. Specifically, Gen X parents. We did a piss poor job of teaching our kids the value of ownership, the value of these games, right? Not only the nostalgia of teaching them the history of these games, of why it's important. At the end of the day, it's going to happen. You know, there's all these YouTubers and all this backlash, but percentage-wise, as far as their customers, it doesn't make a difference. They've already made the decision, and it's a money decision. Now, public relations, you know, they might take a hit, what have you, and they might do something to appease, you know, the hoopla that's going on. But at the end of the day, you know, it's us. You know, things change. You know, it changed from records to, you know, tapes, 8 tracks, right? Then CDs, then digital downloads, MP3s, all that stuff. And we forgot to teach our kids that convenience is not as important as freedom. You don't give up your freedoms for convenience. That's the lesson that we collectively didn't teach our kids. That there is a value of owning these things, right? Of owning these experiences. And the internet has been a great conduit to get people trapped in the convenience for freedom exchange, right? You want to play this? Sign this contract. In this contract, you give up all your personal freedoms, right? You get to play it right now, but we want all your information. We want to track what you do, that kind of stuff. And sure, there's been some backlash, but for the most part, because it's been so convenient, right? And it's made life easier in some of the hardest parts, that we didn't teach our kids this, right? I remember years ago, I want to say it was like 6-7 years ago, I was at a car wash, and I was getting my car washed, and I thought, you know what? I feel like reading a newspaper. And I went to try to buy a newspaper, and they looked at me like I was crazy. I was dating myself, right? It's like newspapers. We haven't sold that here for a long time. You know, and it's that newspapers, magazines, stuff like that. We didn't pass down the legacy of the importance of these things. Now, if you want to read a retro magazine, it's $30. Right? If you go to Barnes and Noble, and if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest and retro. And it's not even from the US, from the UK, they wanted $30 for the magazine, which was insane. I mean, it's just insane, right? That we have to pay that much for these things. Now, albums, you know, if you want vinyl records, some of them are pretty expensive. You know, thank God people are starting to realize what's going on, and they're starting to wake up. And hopefully this will, you know, make them wake up even more. But at the end of the day, guys, at the end of the day, it has been our fault. We didn't teach kids, you know, the value of the Atari. Even in, you know, in the Nintendo days and Super Nintendo days, Sega Genesis days, the way they look at Atari, a lot of these, you know, younger players, they think it's terrible. They don't like it. Right? But that's what paved the way for what it is here. Do you think they know the importance of preserving Atari games? No. They're more concerned about preserving, you know, the NES, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, but even before that, the arcade games. All right, what's the importance of preserving that? You know, and if you really want to get into it, you know, the few people that wanted to preserve for whatever reason, just got pulled into scams supporting things that were never going to do that. There are some museums out there that, are legit. But for the most part, it was never widespread other than in our retro communities. And it's a little bit of selfishness, right? Because you had communities that were all built on sharing things with people of your own age. And that's common, right? That's not unusual. But what we failed to do is provide entertainment and context for the younger audience. And you're not going to get them back. That's the problem. Right? You're not going to get them back. My grandkids that play on tablets, they are not interested in any of this. They're not interested in my physical games or anything. They'll play Minecraft, they'll play Fortnite, stuff like that. Do they care if it's in a cartridge? Do they care that there's a disc? No. That's not where the experience is for them. It's that turning it on convenience. But they're not aware of what they're giving up for that convenience, right? They don't know the pleasure of pulling out a record, putting it on, looking at the sleeve, reading the credits, the personal notes, all that stuff that used to be in physical media. The same thing for video games. Once they started taking away the instruction manual, right, where these companies said, well, we don't have to put it on there, right? We'll just do it, teach it in game. And our society has gotten away from reading. And Chris Rock had a great joke. If you want to hide money from thieves, don't put it in a safe. Don't put it in put it in a book. Put it in a book because people don't read. He used another word, but just in general, people do not read. We don't have that appreciation for comics, for video games, for anything else, right? There's kids here and there that do get it, but it's not the majority. If you ask the average young kid right now, their preferred method of consuming media, it's not going to be a magazine or anything like that. It's not going to be things that are physical. It's all going to be digital. And that, unfortunately, is our fault. And it began with us, right? When I was excited, when I watched war games, when I was playing on my first Commodore and all that stuff, I never imagined this future, right? I never imagined that what it would lead to would be the death of, physical media and video games. To me and to everybody else in Gen X, it was always hand by hand, but we just took it for granted. We just took it for granted and we forgot about business. And I'm telling you this as a business person, it's a natural evolution of business to provide the same thing for the least amount of money. That's how businesses get more profitable, right? If one company has to produce a physical item where they have to spend, storage cost, labor, liability insurance, all that stuff, health insurance, all that comes along with it. And the other company doesn't, and all they have to do is deliver the game to your cell phone. That's where the company's going to go. That's what happened to Kojima. Kojima got kicked out of Konami. Why? Because he couldn't make good video games? No. Because they could make more money making cell phone games. The return on investment on cell phone games was much larger than Kojima games. They didn't have to put all that money up with a huge production. We have to say those kind of artists, right? And we have to teach people why these games are different, why this era was different. Because right now, even the industry, they're learning by losing money, right? Where they're making these huge productions on all these digital download games with microtransactions and what have you, that people are rejecting because of all the other stuff that they put in it, instead of delivering what we want. Is it going to happen here? Unfortunately not. I think, guys, just by the way things are, it's the same reason movies aren't on DVD anymore. It's because people choose to do digital downloads, and it has turned so much for Sony that they made a decision. We can make more money not only not producing the physical games, but turning all that infrastructure into artificial intelligence infrastructure, because we're going to make more money doing that. And that's true. That's true. They will make more money doing that. But that opens opportunities, guys. There is a ray of hope, right? Because that opens opportunities for other companies to step in and fill in those gaps. It doesn't have to be PlayStation. It could be another company, whether it's Atari, whether it's Mod Retro, whether it's any of these other new companies coming up. Evercade, they can fill in those gaps and they can grow by leaps and bounds if they're able to produce what people want. Is the market going to be as big as digital downloads? I don't think so. It could be a healthy market that could serve us. But what I really wanted to say is that we shouldn't blame Sony. We shouldn't blame Xbox, Microsoft, all these big corporations, because they're going to do what we're going to do. If we had taught our younger generations better to appreciate freedom over convenience and the value of ownership, none of this would be happening. Maybe we would go digital, right? Most likely. But these games would be yours. You would not be renting them. So if you want to blame somebody, we'll look in the mirror. All right, humans, I will catch you on the next one. Take care.